Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast, untamed world, where the air is sharp with the scent of pine and the distant roar of a river echoes through the trees. It's a world in flux, a world where the rules of survival are being rewritten. Welcome to the human wild, where we uncover the stories that time has tried to bury. Today, we're stepping into a forgotten chapter of our past, a sliver of time that's easy to overlook but impossible to ignore. The Mesolithic. If the entire history of humanity were compressed into a single day, the Paleolithic would eat up 23 hours and 58 minutes, the Neolithic would flicker into existence in the final minute. And the Mesolithic? It's those fleeting seconds in between, a bridge between the raw, primal hunt and the dawn of civilization. Let's dive into this lost age and see what it tells us about who we are. Imagine it's 20,000 years ago. The last ice age is finally loosening its grip. Glaciers are retreating, their icy fingers pulling back to reveal a new Earth. The open grasslands where our ancestors chased mammoths and bison are shrinking, swallowed by dense forests and rising seas. This isn't just a change in scenery. It's a transformation that forces humanity to rethink everything. The Mesolithic, from the Greek mesos meaning middle and lithos meaning stone, isn't just a transition. It's a revolution in slow motion, a time when humans faced a shifting world and didn't just survive, they began to dream. This period looks different depending on where you stand. In Europe, it stretches from about 15,000 to 5,000 years before present BP, as archaeologists say. In the Middle East, it's called the Epipaleolithic, starting around 20,000 BP with cultures like the Natufian setting the stage. In Northern Europe, where the ice was slower to melt, it lingers until about 5,500 BP. In places like China, though the Mesolithic barely gets a mention, archaeologists there leap straight from Paleolithic to early Neolithic, as if this middle phase was just a whisper. But no matter what it's called, this is when humanity became a laboratory of social evolution, testing new ways to live, eat, and connect. Let's walk into this world. Picture a lake in what's now Denmark 11,000 years ago. The water glints under a pale sun, and a small group of people is setting up camp. They're not the wandering nomads of the Paleolithic anymore. These Mesolithic folks are starting to stay put, at least for a season or two. Their huts are made of branches and hides, nestled near the water where fish are plentiful. You can smell the smoke from their fire, where they're roasting chestnuts or maybe a duck they caught earlier. Nearby, someone's crafting a tiny stone tool, a microlith, no bigger than your thumbnail but sharp enough to cut through hide or bone. These tools are their lifeline, versatile and replaceable. A far cry from the heavy stone axes of their ancestors. What makes this moment so special? It's not just the tools or the food. It's the shift in how these people think. They're not just reacting to the world. They're experimenting with it. The big game mammoths, giant elk, bison are gone, replaced by smaller animals like deer, fish, and wild ducks. The forests are closing in, and survival means getting creative. These people are diversifying their diets, building semi-permanent camps, and starting to craft things that feel surprisingly modern. At a site called Starcar in England, archaeologists found a piece of birch pitch with human bite marks, 5,700 years old, from a woman who'd just eaten duck and chestnuts. Can you imagine her sitting by the fire, chewing the sticky resin, maybe laughing with her family as the flames crackle? It's such a human moment, so relatable, yet it's from a time we can barely grasp. This is the Mesolithic, a time when humans started to settle, not because they were farming yet, but because they were learning to work with the land in new ways. They're choosing places to call home, near rivers and lakes where resources are abundant. Some of these camps, like Starcar, show signs of year-round use, a hint of permanence that's new for our species. And then there's the creativity. At Starcar, they found 33 red deer skull masks, their antlers still attached, carefully shaped to be worn like helmets. Were these for hunting, blending into the forest to stalk prey? Or were they for rituals, maybe a ceremony to honor the animals they depended on? We don't know for sure, but the care taken to craft them tells us these people weren't just surviving. They were building a culture, telling stories, and creating meaning. This is the world we're stepping into, a world where humanity is finding its footing in a landscape that's changing faster than ever. They're not just following herds anymore. They're choosing where to live, what to eat, and how to create. The Mesolithic is where we see the first sparks of what makes us human. Resilience, ingenuity, and imagination. So, let's keep walking through this wild, forgotten age and see how these people reshaped their lives to meet a new world. The Ice Age is gone, and the world is unrecognizable. The vast plains where hunters once tracked megafauna are now dense forests, teeming with smaller game. The seas are rising, swallowing coastlines and turning dry land into swamps. If you were a hunter 20,000 years ago, your life was about chasing big prey across open spaces. But now, that way of life is over, and survival means adapting in ways your ancestors never dreamed of. Let's sit by a Mesolithic campfire, maybe in northern Europe around 10,000 years ago, and see how these people are rewriting the rules. You're watching someone work on a tool, and it's not what you'd expect. It's not a heavy, fist-sized stone axe like the ones from the Paleolithic. This is a microlith, a tiny flake of flint, no bigger than a grape seed, chipped into a razor-sharp edge. They're attaching it to a wooden shaft to make an arrowhead or a fishing hook. These microliths are the Swiss Army knives of the Stone Age. Small, versatile, and perfect for a world where you're hunting deer or catching fish instead of mammoths. They're usually just 1 to 5 centimeters long, crafted with a precision that feels almost modern. Imagine the skill it takes to shape something so small, to haft it onto wood or bone, and to know it'll do exactly what you need, whether that's spearing a fish or slicing a hide. These tools aren't just functional. They're a revolution in thinking. Mesolithic people aren't carving single-purpose tools anymore. They're building modular systems, mix-and-match combinations that can be tailored to any task. Need a spear for hunting? Attach a microlith to a shaft. Need a knife for gutting fish? Swap in a different blade. At sites like Starcar in England, archaeologists have found dozens of these composite tools, each one a testament to a mind that's solving problems in new ways. This isn't just about survival, it's about innovation, about creating tools that are lighter, more replaceable, and endlessly adaptable. But the tools are only half the story. The Mesolithic lifestyle is changing just as dramatically. With the big game gone, people are diversifying their diets. No more relying on a single mammoth to feed the group for weeks. Now, it's about variety. Fish from the rivers, shellfish from the coasts, wild ducks, small deer, chestnuts, and berries. Archaeological hearths are like snapshots of their meals, filled with carp bones, duck feathers, burned nutshells, and even early ceramic vessels used for cooking. These people aren't just eating to stay alive. They're learning to make the most of the world around them, savoring its abundance. This shift in diet is reshaping where and how they live. Mesolithic people are setting up camps in places that make sense for this new way of life. Near rivers, lakes, or coastlines, where fish, fresh water, and building materials are plentiful. These aren't just temporary stops anymore. Some sites, like those in Denmark or the Baltic, show signs of occupation for months or even year-round. Picture a cluster of huts made from branches, reeds, and hides, sturdy enough to last through the seasons. These are the first steps toward permanence, toward calling a place home, even if they're not farming yet. And they're not just building shelters, they're crafting a whole new way of life. At Cuá de los Murciélagos in Spain, archaeologists found woven baskets made of seagrass, some dyed with natural pigments and decorated with geometric patterns. These baskets weren't just for carrying things. They're early experiments in textiles, a hint of the weaving and sewing that will come later. They even found primitive sandals made from plant fibers, dating back 9,500 years. Imagine slipping on a pair of handmade sandals to walk through a Mesolithic forest. It's a small detail, but it shows these people were thinking about comfort, about style, about making life better. Then there's the creativity that goes beyond survival. Those red deer skull masks at Starcar? They're not just for hunting. The way they're carefully shaped, with holes drilled for wearing, suggests they were used in ceremonies. Maybe dances or shamanistic rituals to connect with the spirits of the animals they hunted. At Salome in Denmark, That piece of birch pitch with bite marks is like a time capsule. A woman, 5,700 years ago, chewing resin after a meal of duck and chestnuts. Such a human moment, a glimpse into a life that feels so distant yet so familiar. This is a quiet revolution, one that doesn't shout its importance but reshapes the world all the same. Mesolithic people are crafting tools, homes, and rituals that reflect a deeper connection to the land. They're not just surviving, they're adapting, innovating, and preparing for a future they can't yet see. Let's follow their footsteps into the heart of Mesolithic Europe, where this story of adaptation comes alive in vivid detail. Now, let's travel across the changing landscapes of Europe, where the Mesolithic is unfolding in 1,000 different ways. The glaciers are gone, and the continent is a patchwork of forests, swamps, and lakes. The seas are rising, turning plains into marshes and coastlines into new frontiers. This is a world in transformation, and the people living here are adapting with a creativity that's as diverse as the land itself. There's no single Mesolithic culture in Europe. It's a tapestry of local traditions, each woven from the challenges of its environment. Imagine you're in Northern Europe around 11,000 years ago, standing in what's now Denmark. This is the world of the Maglemosian culture, named after the Maglemos bog where their traces were first found. These people are living in a wetland paradise, surrounded by lakes and rivers brimming with fish. Their huts are built from branches and reeds, sturdy enough to withstand the damp seasons. They're hunters, but not the kind who chase megafauna across open plains. They're stalking deer through dense forests, fishing with bone hooks, and paddling dugout canoes across still waters. These canoes, carved from single tree trunks, are some of the earliest boats we know of. Picture a family gliding across a lake, their paddles dipping silently, heading out to check their nets. It's a scene of quiet mastery, of a people perfectly attuned to their world. The Maglemosians are experts in their environment. Their tools are a mix of microliths, those tiny, versatile stone blades, and bone implements like fish hooks and harpoons. They're not just surviving. They're thriving in a food-rich but demanding landscape. Their camps are scattered across wetlands, where they hunt deer, catch fish, and gather plants. At one site, archaeologists found a wooden platform built beside a lake, a kind of Mesolithic boardwalk that suggests they were settling in for months at a time, maybe longer. Let's move east to the Baltic, where the Kunda culture is flourishing around 10,500 to 7,000 years ago. This is a world of brackish marshes and thick forests, where people hunt beavers, seals, and water birds. Their tools are made from red deer antler and bone, shaped with a precision that feels almost modern. They're specialists, adapting to a landscape where the sea and land blur together. Their camps are dotted along the coast, where they can exploit both marine and terrestrial resources. It's a life of balance, of knowing exactly when to hunt, when to fish, and when to move on. Now head south to England to Starcar, dated to about 11,000 years ago. This is one of the most famous Mesolithic sites in the world, and it's easy to see why. Here, archaeologists found evidence of a seasonal settlement, a kind of proto-village by a lake. There's a wooden platform, one of the oldest in Europe, suggesting people stayed here for months at a time. They hunted red deer, fished, and gathered plants. But it's the artifacts that tell a deeper story. Those 33 red deer skull masks, carefully perforated and reshaped, hint at rituals, maybe ceremonies to honor the animals or connect with the spiritual world. It's a glimpse into a community that's not just surviving but creating meaning. Further south, in France and Spain, the Azilian culture is taking shape around 14,000 to 10,000 years ago. These people are the heirs of the Paleolithic cave painters, but their art is different. They're painting pebbles with abstract symbols and using bows and arrows to hunt. These pebbles might seem simple, but they're a big deal. A sign of symbolic thinking, a way to communicate ideas beyond the immediate. It's a step toward the abstract thought that will define later human cultures. One of the most incredible finds comes from Warren Field in Scotland, dated to around 10,000 years ago. Here, archaeologists uncovered 12 pits arranged in a crescent, aligned with the moon's 29.5-day cycle. This could be the oldest lunar calendar in the world, proof that Mesolithic people were tracking time. These aren't farmers with fields to tend. They're hunters and gatherers, yet they're observing the heavens, marking the moon's phases to guide their seasonal movements. It's a window into a mind that's starting to grapple with time and the rhythms of the world. In Denmark, the Ertbowl culture from 7,300 to 5,900 years ago shows how the Mesolithic doesn't just vanish when agriculture arrives. These people live along the coast, eating mussels, fish, and small game. They have pottery, coarse, practical vessels for cooking, but they're not farmers. They coexist with Neolithic farmers for over 2,000 years, trading, interacting, and sometimes competing. Some Ertbowl groups even bury their dead in ways that mirror Neolithic rituals, a sign of cultural blending. What unites these cultures is their adaptability. The Mesolithic in Europe isn't one story. It's many, each shaped by the land, the water, and the climate. These people are building boats, crafting tools, tracking the stars, and creating art that reflects their world. They're not just reacting to change. They're mastering it, laying the foundation for the villages and societies to come. Let's step deeper into this world, because the art and culture of the Mesolithic are where we see the human spirit truly come alive. We've walked through the forests and rivers of Mesolithic Europe, seen the tools and camps that shaped a new way of life. Now let's pause and look at something even more profound, the art and culture of this age. This is where the Mesolithic becomes more than a story of survival. It's a story of humanity finding its voice. In the Paleolithic, art was about the wild. Bison, lions, mammoths painted on cave walls, a tribute to the animals that sustained life. But in the Mesolithic, the focus shifts. For the first time, humans step into the spotlight, and their art begins to reflect not just the world around them but the world within. Let's start in Spain, at the rock shelter of Roc del Moros at El Cogol. Picture yourself standing in a shallow cave, the sun filtering through the trees outside. Etched into the rock are 45 small human figures, no bigger than your hand, depicting scenes of hunting, dancing, fighting, and ritual. One image stands out, the Cogol dance, a group of women circling a central male figure. Is this a fertility ritual? A celebration of community? A story about gender roles? We can't say for sure, but these carvings aren't just art. They're a mirror of human society, a glimpse into what these people valued. They took the time to etch these scenes into stone, to tell stories that would last thousands of years. It's a testament to a mind that's starting to think beyond the immediate, to imagine a world of meaning. Now, let's travel to Palestine around 9,000 years ago, to a tiny figurine called the Ein Sakri Lovers. Carved from calcite, it shows two human figures embracing, their forms intertwined in a way that's both intimate and universal. This isn't about sex in a crude sense. It's about connection, about love, about the bonds that hold communities together. Holding this figurine, you can feel the weight of 9,000 years of human emotion, a reminder that even in this ancient world, people were grappling with the same feelings we have today. It's the oldest known depiction of human sexuality, and it's not about lust but about intimacy, about the human need to connect. Head north to the Ural forests of Russia, where something even more extraordinary was found, the Shigar idol. This towering wooden statue, standing 5 meters tall, is carved with human faces and geometric patterns. Dated to around 11,500 years ago, it's the oldest wooden sculpture in the world. Imagine the effort it took to carve this from a single large tree, to haul it deep into the forest, to erect it as a symbol of something greater, maybe a spiritual guardian, maybe an ancestor watching over the community. The faces carved into the wood aren't just decoration. They're a statement of identity, of belief, of a people claiming their place in the cosmos. Back at Starcar in England, those 33 red deer skull masks tell another story. These aren't just hunting tools. The skulls were carefully perforated and reshaped, likely worn like helmets in rituals or ceremonies. Picture a Mesolithic hunter, antlers rising from his head, moving through the forest in a dance that blurs the line between human and animal. Was this a way to honor the deer they hunted? A shamanistic ritual to connect with the spirits? Whatever it was, it shows a community with a shared sense of purpose, a spirituality that binds them together. And it's not just the big, dramatic artifacts. At Starkar, archaeologists also found necklaces etched with geometric patterns, pendants made from amber and slate, even tiny beads that hint at personal adornment. These aren't just decorations, they're markers of identity, of individuality, of a culture that's starting to think about who they are as people. This is the Mesolithic difference. Art isn't just about surviving anymore. It's about imagination, about belief, about creating a world that's more than just food and shelter. This shift in art reflects a deeper change in how Mesolithic people saw themselves. They weren't just animals struggling to survive. They were humans with stories, with rituals, with a sense of purpose. The geometric patterns on their jewelry, the lunar calendar in Scotland, the dancing figures in Spain, all of these point to a mind that's starting to think symbolically, to see the world not just as it is but as it could be. This is the seed of everything that makes us human. Art, culture, spirituality, community. As we move toward the end of this journey, let's reflect on what this means for the world that's coming next. We've seen the tools, the camps, the art, and the cultures that define the Mesolithic. Now let's bring this story full circle. This forgotten age isn't just a footnote in history. It's the crucible where modern humanity was forged. The world is warming, the seas are rising, and the old ways of hunting megafauna are gone. But instead of breaking under the weight of change, our ancestors reinvented themselves, crafting new tools, new homes, and new ways of seeing the world. As the Neolithic approaches, with its promise of farms and villages, the Mesolithic doesn't just fade away. It leaves a legacy that shapes everything to come. Around 10,000 years ago, the Neolithic revolution begins to sweep through the Fertile Crescent and into Europe. This is the age of agriculture. Wheat fields, livestock, polished stone axes, and permanent villages with long wooden houses. It's a transformation that will change the world forever. But here's the thing, not everyone is ready to trade their spears for plows. In places like Northern Europe, where the forests and coasts are rich with fish and game, many Mesolithic communities keep their hunter-gatherer ways for thousands of years. They're not backward or primitive. They're choosing a life that works for them, a life of freedom and connection to the wild. Take Bladderhole Cave in Germany, for example. Between 7,000 and 5,000 years ago, while Neolithic farmers are tilling fields nearby, some people are still living the Mesolithic life, eating river fish and wild game. In one burial, archaeologists found a hunter-gatherer man and a farming woman buried together, their lives intertwined in death as they had been in life. This isn't just a clash of cultures. It's a blending, a slow dance between two ways of living. For centuries, Mesolithic and Neolithic communities coexist, trade, intermarry, and shape each other. Some adopt farming quickly, like those in Central Europe and the Balkans, integrating with Neolithic farmers from the Middle East. Others, in the forests and wetlands of the north, hold on to their traditions, adapting only when it suits them. This slow transition tells us something profound. The Mesolithic wasn't just a phase to be left behind. It was a mindset, a way of living close to the land, of valuing adaptability and freedom. For some, hunting and gathering wasn't just a means of survival, it was a cultural choice, a refusal to be tied to fields and fences. And in that choice, we see the roots of human resilience, of our ability to face change without losing who we are. Now, let's bring this home to our own time. We're living through our own Mesolithic moment. A world where technology, climate change, pandemics, and shifting societies are rewriting the rules. Like our ancestors 10,000 years ago, we're standing at a crossroads. Some of us will embrace the new, like the Neolithic farmers who built a new world from seeds and soil. Others will hold on to the old ways, finding meaning in traditions that still resonate. There's no right or wrong answer. Both are human responses to a world in flux. What can we learn from the Mesolithic? That change doesn't have to break us. Our ancestors faced a warming world, Rising seas and disappearing resources, and they didn't just survive, they thrived. They invented microliths, built semi-permanent camps, and created art that spoke to their hopes and fears. They carved their stories into stone, wood, and bone, leaving a legacy of resilience and creativity. They showed us that humanity's strength lies in our ability to adapt, to innovate, to tell stories that carry us forward. As we stand in our own moment of transition, let's take a page from their book. The Mesolithic wasn't just about surviving a changing world. It was about shaping it, about dreaming of what could come next. Maybe, by looking back at their world, we can find the courage to face our own. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the human wild. If this story sparked something in you, drop a comment below. Tell us what you think about these forgotten ancestors and their world. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next dive into the turning points of humanity. Let's keep exploring the wild together.